Coming up on We Talk News this week.
Our nation with this election has a precious, fleeting opportunity to move past the bitterness, cynicism, and divisive battles of the past, a chance to chart a new way forward.
So will that include federal cannabis reform? One U.S. senator says if elected, VP Kamala Harris will be ready to sign a federal reform bill. While the GOP continues to live in the past when two senators call a marijuana gateway drug and oppose the rescheduling of cannabis to Schedule III of the CSA. And Ohio doubles the total of their first week of sales as 130 Ohio dispensaries are now open for adult use. Plus, results from a new Gallup poll that shows once again American adults believe that cannabis is less harmful than alcohol. Yet, some media are spinning the same poll results and reporting that a slim majority believe cannabis has a negative effect on its users and society as a whole. In the nation's #1 cannabis market, a California brand is challenging the reasons for a state recall of their products by the Cannabis Regulatory Board. Glass House Brands has been ghosted by that board while just asking for basic communication like why and where did the state get those tests anyway. And in Massachusetts this weekend, a gang of online influencers all go live at 4:20 as a protest of how they're being treated on social media platforms.
We're here to spark a change. Instagram, stop shadow banning us. Facebook, stop shadow banning us.
All that and coast-to-coast cannabis news on We Talk News with Alaina Pinto. Next.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to We Talk News, Pro Cannabis Media's weekly production of cannabis news from coast to coast. I'm Alaina Pinto. Now that Kamala Harris is the official presidential candidate for the Democratic Party, there's no doubt which of the two people running for office is the more friendly one to cannabis and the reform movement. But sure enough, some GOP senators are making noise about rescheduling, though still clinging to the gateway theory that has been debunked by thousands of studies over the last few decades. Needless to say, with just over 70 days left before the November election, the rhetoric is heating up in our nation's capital, and Andrew Behringer shares his perspective on the chances for federal reform in his DC Cannabis report.
I'm Andrew Behringer, and this is the DC Area Report for We Talk News. As the 2024 presidential race heats up, cannabis policy reform has emerged as a key issue with candidates across the political spectrum weighing in. Some have called on Democrats to follow through on federal cannabis reform, urging them to make ending the drug war a centerpiece of their agenda. Now, this comes as Vice President Kamala Harris, now the Democratic presidential nominee, has a history of advocating for cannabis legalization, including sponsoring a comprehensive bill in the Senate. However, the Democratic National Committee's 2024 platform stopped just short of explicitly endorsing decriminalization, instead highlighting the Biden administration's cannabis pardons and rescheduling directive. The DNC has faced criticism for overstating progress, suggesting on social media that cannabis has already been rescheduled. President Biden, while maintaining opposition to broader reform, has taken steps towards change. His administration directed a review of cannabis rescheduling, resulting in the Justice Department recommendation to move cannabis from a Schedule I to a Schedule III. Biden also issued cannabis pardons and was praised by reform advocates. On the Republican side, former President Trump has recently indicated a softening stance on decriminalization, citing the growing state-level legalization movement. During his presidency, Trump largely maintained a hands-off approach to state cannabis laws and even criticized his own attorney general for rescinding Obama-era enforcement guidance. The Harris-Walz ticket brings a strong pro-cannabis reform record, while Minnesota Governor Tim Walz having signed a comprehensive legalization bill into law in 2023. Democratic senators predict that a Harris presidency would lead to more momentum on cannabis legalization at both state and the federal levels. Public opinion seems to align with reform efforts, with recent polls showing majority support for cannabis legalization in key battleground states in the upcoming election. However, critics continue to point to Harris's prosecutional record on cannabis as a potential weakness. As we approach the election, the contrast between candidates on the issue is stark. While the Biden-Harris administration has taken incremental steps towards reform, advocates like Cornel West are pushing for more comprehensive changes. Trump's evolving stance adds another layer of complexity to the debate. With cannabis policy reforming gaining traction across party lines, it's clear that cannabis will be a significant issue in the 2024 presidential race. Voters will be watching closely to see how candidates address these evolving issues of the landscape around drug policy reform. I'm Andrew Behringer reporting for We Talk News.
Our next story is about the latest Gallup poll. The results expose how attitudes are changing towards cannabis in this country. It also shows that depending on what your opinion is, anyone can spin the results to fit their narrative. For instance, you might find traditional TV networks reporting on the negative results, as opposed to what we do, which is give the industry a voice. Especially when you have only surveyed 1,000 people, and even if you are a respected pollster group like Gallup, you have to look at the questions asked and the various answers shared. So here's one headline. Gallup poll. Americans say marijuana is less harmful than alcohol or tobacco. The same poll with other headlines claiming that since 2022, Americans' view of the effects of marijuana worsen. Same poll, different spins on the data. 54% say the effects have worsened over the past 2 years, and 51% say it negatively impacts society and the people who use it. Well, here's the skinny. Multiple groups of the just over 1,000 people polled said that they think the plant has a positive effect on others. And now the other side says it has a negative impact. Bottom line here, the percentage difference is small. That allows analysis of the data to fit whatever your opinion is. When the margins are 2 to 4% and the range of error is in that 3 to 5% range, shouldn't the conclusions be just thrown out? Well, everyone's opinion now is being supported by their own interpretation of the data. So whatever the numbers say that aligns with your own narrative is now available to consumers online. Now let's check in with Joe Parsons in Virginia for his weekly report from the Old Dominion state.
I'm Joe Parsons with the Virginia Cannabis Connection, and this is the Virginia Cannabis Report on We Talk News. The Virginia Cannabis Control Authority released a new toolkit this week targeted at college-age residents between 18 and 21. The new toolkit is designed to help young adults make safe and informative decisions. This informative toolkit covers topics such as cannabis laws, responsible use strategies, effects of cannabis on the brain and the body. It also includes topics like safe and sober driving, secure cannabis storage, and even travel and mail safety. Acting Head and Chief Officer of Regulatory Policy and External Affairs, Jeremy Priest, he said, "Young adulthood is an important development period. Understanding the laws and facts regarding cannabis is particularly important during this time. The toolkit offers valuable information to young adults about cannabis and promotes responsible behavior within their social circles." This free toolkit is available on the Virginia Cannabis Control Authority's website and a link on X. There's a follow-up on the dynamic duo of Aqualung and the Pack Piper. The limited edition comic book series from higher education and comic artist Jeffrey Peterson is almost ready for their 4th episode. I was even able to get a sneak peek of the new cover, courtesy of Don Morris of Higher Education. This latest exciting installment is in its final stages and should be ready in time for Christmas this year. This one is a limited edition, though, so there's only going to be 1,000 copies. So if you're interested in this one or the past 3 episodes, please reach out to Don or Seth at highereducationva.com for more information on how to order. I, for one, am super excited to see what's in store for our super cannabis heroes. Well, that's going to do it for this week from the Virginia Cannabis Connection. I'm Joe Parsons reporting from Weed Talk News. Till next time, stay lifted.
It's the second week of adult use sales in Ohio, and now there are 130 former medical-only dispensaries now selling to all adults over 21. The first 5 days of sales brought in $11 million, but now with an increase in the number of stores selling the product, that number has doubled to $22 million. And now people are predicting another billion-dollar state. Here's a look at the top states for sales in July. California remains number one with $367 million, followed by Michigan with $286 million. Illinois is third, Massachusetts fourth, and Missouri fifth, with $123 million sold in that state. So what happened to Arizona? Once considered a model state for the transition from medical to adult use, now sales are down, and Karen Black tries to figure out why that is in her Arizona Cannabis Report.
I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting with the Arizona Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. The Grand Canyon State's cannabis market is going through some growing pains. Adult use and medical sales through June 2024 are down 11% year over year. And there are 20 more dispensaries than in June of 23, which may have something to do with the 31.6% decline in average revenue per dispensary in nearly the same period. Despite these numbers, valuations of Arizona cannabis companies remain strong. In business news, Verano Holdings closed on its acquisition of the Cannabis Co.'s Arizona assets, which include 2 dispensaries, an active cultivation, and a production facility for a cool $15 million cash. Vext Sciences announced its second quarter 24 earnings. Vext revenue was up a little over the first quarter, but down over 8% compared to the second quarter last year. The company reported a net loss of over $4 million, quite a change from the $500,000 profit in 2Q23. Vext suggested EBITDA was $1.1 million, and margin improved 1.5 points to 12.9%. With Arizona filling the squeeze, Vext is betting big on the Buckeye State. Elsewhere in Arizona, Curaleaf's Arizona dispensaries are wrapping up a company-wide month-long Feed the Block fundraiser. For every purchase made in August, Curaleaf donates a portion of the proceeds to help provide meals for families facing food insecurity.
And that's television.
Tucson's D2 Dispensaries is celebrating its 11th anniversary. Also in the Old Pueblo, Tucson Debi held another of its pop-up extravaganza events August 23rd. Back here in Phoenix, Fused held a swanky launch party for its M-Fog product, which I'm told lives up to its name. And finally, Rose Law Group, which has a prominent cannabis practice, was named one of the top companies to work for in 2024 by the Arizona Capital Times. That will do it for this week's Arizona Cannabis Report. I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting reporting for Weed Talk News.
Whether they embrace it or not, the cannabis industry has a very active supply and demand market in every legal state. Price fluctuations based on inventory is something every legal adult use state in the union is learning through operation. This is especially true in a state like Oregon, a state that always has more grown than what can be sold. According to the Global Index Price of Marijuana, the average cost of an ounce of high-quality cannabis is $326, with the highest price in Virginia of $365 and the lowest in Oregon of $211. Well, even here in Massachusetts, where the supply is greater than the demand, some dispensaries have been forced to lower their price for an ounce to $50 for shake and $99 for buds. By current law, the industry can only sell state-grown flower since there is no official legal interstate commerce. Well, our Oregon reporter is Marianne Cursetjee, who explains the grim reality in her state.
I'm Marianne from Alibi with this week's Oregon Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. According to the Green Market Report, the national average for an ounce of cannabis is approximately $290. Oregon, sadly, is the lowest at $199. This is troublesome because the outdoor harvest hasn't hit the market yet. Right now, it's light dep season, and it'll be a couple months until outdoor hits. Prices usually drop after outdoor flower becomes available. Most cultivators are feeling the pinch and struggling to be profitable. And next, iconic duo Cheech and Chong are entering the Oregon market through an agreement with Doghouse Farms. Doghouse Farms has operations in Oregon, Washington, and Michigan, and is known for their commitment to quality, and this should be an exciting collaboration. And finally, Oregon State University released more information about its research into hop-latent viroid. This viroid is common in hop plants and has infected cannabis and hemp plants. Plants showing signs of hop-latent viroid disease, HLVD, exhibit dudding, which greatly reduces yield and potency. It has been estimated that 90% of cannabis farms in California have infected plants. OSU is leading research into how to prevent and slow down transmission. For now, the best guidance is to soak any tools in at least 10% bleach solution in between plants and to discard any infected plants. That's the Oregon Cannabis Report for this week. I'm Marianne with Alibi for Weed Talk News.
That'll do it for the A Block, and coming up on We Talk News, more state-to-state reports and a story about a networking event and influencer protest in Greenfield, Massachusetts. That also featured PCM founder Jimmy Young on a media panel. We Talk News will be back after this.
Ready to take your craft to the next level? Imagine faster extractions, purer products, and more profits. Sounds good, right? At Pure 5 Extraction, we've revolutionized cannabis extraction with our game-changing technology. No solvents, no heat, just the cleanest, most natural process on the market. Whether you're a boutique grower or a large-scale operation, Pure 5 has the tools to elevate your business worldwide. Visit pure5extraction.com today. Pure 5 Extraction, because your plants deserve the best.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Weed Talk News. This is the B Block. I'm Alaina Pinto. Over the past week, another city in the country is defying state law and changing how their city treats cannabis possession. This week, the city of Charleston, West Virginia, received a citizen-led initiative petition that gathered 4,000 signatures from the 47,000 residents of that city. They presented those signatures to their city council. The council had the option of adding the question to the ballot or enacting a change in the law themselves. The city council there decided to make changes to the law regarding possession crimes. West Virginia law considers possession of cannabis a criminal misdemeanor punishable by up to 6 months in jail and or up to a $1,000 fine. Well, now in Charleston, if you are found possessing under 15 grams of cannabis, you won't have to worry about the threat of jail time and a fine if you get caught with a joint in your pocket. On top of that, your record will be expunged even if you are caught a second time for low-level possession. The fact that a citizen initiative led to these changes, though, is encouraging for any other city looking to make changes to their local law versus state law. West Virginia does have a medical program that allows patients to qualify with 16 doctor-diagnosed conditions, including cancer, epilepsy, ALS, Crohn's disease, PTSD, and chronic pain. The state of Texas has enacted change in a similar initiative, and now 2 more cities will allow their citizens to vote on those changes. One city and state that has embraced adult use, social clubs, and legalization is Nevada. That's where Tina Tasaka reports from every week. Here she is.
I'm Tina Tasaka with 420 Technologies, and this is the Nevada Report for Weed Talk News. Although this week I'm doing a little Consumption Lounge roadshow, and I'm visiting the High Lounge in Tempe, Arizona. I get asked frequently about consumption lounges in Las Vegas and mention them often in my reports. What's the current status? There are two that opened in 2024, Smoke and Mirrors, just located behind the Strip, with the Reset Group, and Dazed inside the massive Planet 13 dispensary and entertainment venue. The third is New Woo Sky High Lounge in downtown Las Vegas that is owned by the Paiute tribe. Why are the eyes on Las Vegas and the lounges? Well, there are over 40 million tourists per year, and the globe is watching because Las Vegas set the gold standard in gaming and hospitality, and we need to set the same standard in cannabis lounges. So, what is going on in other key areas of the U.S. with lounges? West Hollywood has 6 lounges, and 10 more are licensed and coming. New lounges that just opened, Red Falcon Lounge and Dispensary, which is the 29 Palms Tribe. This is in Indio, California, and Spotlight 29 Casino. And Private Reserve in West Hollywood. They are open in the evenings, and reservations can be made on opentable.com. Soon to open this fall, the plush, long-awaited Cirrus Social Club in Denver with Aaron Richard, and Sessions on the Bay, which is San Diego's first lounge, 13,000 square feet, which is tribally owned by the Sequan tribe with a joint venture with a business couple. So, what will be the secret sauce to this market? Data. Christopher Laporte at Smoke and Mirrors has reported that his mocktails that are dosed at 2.5 milligrams THC are the best sellers. So, just like restaurants and bars and hospitality, who are your guests? What are they consuming? Are they newbies? Are they kinda curious? Are they super users? Are they locals? What do they like? I could lay out 100 more data points that would be vital to this nascent industry. But overall, let's all support each other and support these lounges and initiatives. The more data, the better the industry. Please stay tuned to Pro Cannabis Media, Coast to Coast, as I continue to report on all things for cannabis lounges. That's it for the 702. I'm Tina Tasaka with 420 Technologies and Weed Talk News.
North of the border in Canada, the federally operated cannabis industry has plenty of issues with inventory and fluctuating prices caused by an overabundance of product. Plus, that country exports quite a bit of their product to the emerging European market. Here's this week's Canadian Cannabis Report with Debi Facey.
Canada's wholesale market is shifting from a buyer's to a seller's market due to the decline in domestic production and the increased international demand. This change is benefiting growers, allowing them to demand upfront payment, higher prices, especially when it comes to the quality of flower. The market shift is driven by the closure of several cannabis producers and the reduction in the production capacity, which has tightened supply. Tilray has signed on with the second craft brewery in Georgia, Turpin Beer Company, along with the 3 other breweries from the Molson Coors. This acquisition, which includes Sweetwater brewing positions, which is great. Tilray, as a leading craft brewer in Georgia, increases the annual beer production to 15 million cases. But Tilray, at this point in time, doesn't have any broader strategy when it comes to diversifying and gaining any other revenue within the international business other than the beverages at this point. And last but not least, our stores here in Ontario are upset with the unregulated pot shops. So these are the ones that are falling underneath the indigenized sovereignty that they are calling about. With this intervention, most of the police are leading to the unfair competition, realizing the struggles. The illegal operations are not only undercutting some of the prices to the legal markets, but to the legal markets, they do feel as if some of these businesses are harming others. This isn't necessarily true, just due to the fact that illegal and legal still have great people behind them that only believe in providing the best and the most knowledgeable and safest medication and plant matter ever. So that's one thing that I do disagree with, but I do agree when it comes to the illegal markets. This is Debi Facey, your Canadian correspondent with the Canadian Trend this week. Peace.
I'm Doug Miller from Highland Wall Street with this week's cannabis stock report for Weed Talk News. The cannabis company selling all 14 of its Florida medical marijuana dispensaries and 3 cultivation facilities for $16.4 million in 2 separate deals involving 3 multi-state operators. In one transaction, an unidentified MSO is paying $11.4 million for the cannabis 40,000 square foot cultivation facility in Lakeland. In the other transaction, a joint venture of Arizona-based Mint Cannabis and California headquartered Shango will pay $5 million for the cannabis 14 dispensaries. The cannabis dispensaries locations are expected to be rebranded to Mint Cannabis after the deal closes. After leaving Florida, the cannabis company will continue to operate in 13 markets until it completes its exit from Washington, D.C. The cannabis company, formerly known as Columbia Care, operates 95 facilities across the U.S., including 73 stores and 22 manufacturing plants. So let's see how the stock chart looks. It's trading around 25 cents, and it appears that it wants to pull back. So watch for dips and trade smart. And that's this week's Cannabis Stock Report. Reporting for Weed Talk News, I'm Doug Miller.
The state of Massachusetts continues to struggle to figure out the best way to regulate social consumption lounges or even social areas where it can be consumed in a designated area. It has allowed private membership clubs like Worcester Summit Lounge to evolve naturally. Specific public festivals for over 21 attendees have also been allowed, but they might also want to consider what is opening in Denver, Colorado in just a few weeks. You see, it takes the meaning of R&R and adds another R to the equation: rest, relaxation, and reefer. Here's Xavier Jaillet with this week's Colorado Cannabis Report.
I'm Xavier Jaillet, chair of the Colorado chapter of the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce and a non-attorney professional with the McDonald Hopkins law firm, bringing you this week's Colorado news update for Weed News Week. I've got 2 stories to share with everybody this week. The first one, in what's a win for operators and both the environment and the state, sees that regulators are allowing operators to do away with the much maligned RFID tag in January of 2027. This means that operators will no longer be required to use RFID tags to track product as it moves through the physical locations in their facility and through the physical processes to make marijuana products, to input those inventory changes into the state-based seed-to-sale tracking system. These tags have been much maligned for a long time now, like I said, both as blights on the environment, right? They can't be recycled, they must be disposed, and then also as a cost to operators, as each individual tag carries a very specific cost that must be, of course, purchased directly from the certified vendor metric to be used with the state tracking system. So starting in January of 2027, operators would no longer be required to use those RFID tags. The second piece of news is one that's sure to be controversial, and that's that Mike Tyson's cannabis company has launched his gummies here in Colorado. Now, the original shape of the gummies, as has been widely reported, was an ear, of course, with a bite mark taken out of the top of the ear, as it's been known to be affiliated with Tyson, of course. And then recently, the gummies that they've launched here have abandoned that design. Of course, it's not going to be allowed to be sold here in Colorado as that specific gummy shape. And so instead, they're going with boxing gloves, and those gloves are going to be available on shelves soon here in Colorado. And so just a quick update this week. But again, the tag news is sure to be a big win for operators and the environment. And then, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on which camp you say in, big brands are here in Colorado, and one of those does include, of course, Tyson's Cannabis Business, which is launching its new gummies in the state shortly. That's it for this week. Looking forward to providing an update next week, and I hope everyone has a good one until then.
The state of Texas now has 2 more small towns that want to defy state law with the purpose of softening cannabis penalties. Bastrop and Lockhart, Texas, have added ballot questions relating to changes to low-level cannabis possession crimes to the November ballot. These are 2 relatively small towns in the Lone Star State. Lockhart has 17,000 residents, and Bastrop has just over 11,000 residents. This movement isn't just limited to small towns in that state. This fall, the 3rd largest city in the state, Dallas, with 1.3 million people, also has a ballot question defying state law on low-level cannabis possession crimes. New Mexico is the state right next to Texas, and that adult use legal state is cleaning up with sales to Texas residents, especially on the border town of Sunland Park. That state did just over $50 million in sales in July, with a significant $2 million increase year over year. The number 2 state in sales in the U.S. is Michigan, and that's where Amie Carter reports from this week from a cannabis-friendly event in her state.
I'm Amie Carter from Michigan Weedsters with this week's Weed Talk News. I'm at the 14th annual Clio Cultivation event, and I'm going to introduce you to T-Dog. If you don't know T-Dog, you do now. Tell us a little bit about yourself, T-Dog. What inspires you?
I'll tell you what inspires me. This community inspires me. When people can take the time, like-minded people who know that this medicine, this plant, and the people connected to it have a mission. And that mission is to bring their best to the table and to bring the best to their care, the people they care for. And so what do? I create this art. If I can keep people smiling, that's half the battle. So let's go, nation.
New Line Processing, a firm based in New York City, has recently entered the Michigan market to provide marijuana buyers with credit limits of up to $800. This is great news considering Michigan marijuana shops and their patrons have struggled to utilize Visa and MasterCard for marijuana purchases. In other news, an employment fair called the Hire and Fire Industry Job Fair and Networking event is scheduled for Monday, September 9th in Pontiac, Michigan. Attendees can participate in speed dating, networking, immediate interviews, educational workshops, panels, and brand activations regardless of experience level. RSVP is encouraged due to limited seating. I'm going to go enjoy myself at the festival since it has some of my favorite things, which is cannabis, community, live music, and great food. I'm Amie Carter with Michigan Weedsters, and we will see you next week.
That'll do it for the B Block, but when we come back, PCM founder Jimmy Young reports on Cannabrand Connect, a cannabis consumption festival in Greenfield, Massachusetts for online influencers. Many are constantly having their accounts and posts taken down by and censored by Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And a group of them staged a live protest this past weekend in Greenfield, Massachusetts.
Light up for the cause. We're here to spark a change. Instagram, stop shadow banning us. Facebook, stop shadow banning us.
It's a whole new world of weed out there, isn't it? Everyone is learning new ways to titrate, ingest, consume, imbibe, and engage with this plant medicine we call cannabis. Now, let me tell you my cannabis story. You know, I've had 4 major surgeries in the past 23 years and suffer from osteoarthritis with a variety of metal parts in my body and one on deck. Now, thanks to those chronic pain issues, I've been a medical patient in Massachusetts for almost 10 years now. I remember my first trip to a dispensary just outside of Boston, and I told the bud tender I didn't want to smoke it anymore. So I tried edibles, then tinctures, then vaping, and now if I'm going to smoke, I only use the Weedjits filtration system. What? The Weedjits.com, Weedjits, that's weed, W-E-E-D, G-E-T-S.com, is where you'll find the planet's coolest product that cools the smoke from everyone's favorite flower.
The guy that started this was a pretty good medical device manufacturer, and he created this maze pipe that cools the smoking process from 1300 degrees Fahrenheit upon inflammation down to just 90 degrees when it reaches your mouth. That's right, 1300 down to 90. That's why this maze pipe is amazing. Now, add in the code of PCMTV and you get 15% off. So just go to Weejits.com and check out the best way to enjoy a cooler smoke with less coughing and hacking and more peace of mind.
Yeah, it's a great question because cannabis is very exciting. It's almost like, mom and pop drugstores. You could start whatever you wanted. You could be pretty successful. And then there are the business people who see the revenue potential. And those are the ones that I think they are going to become the buyers going forward. And then smaller companies will be the sellers. And then there'll be another group of like, what the heck happened? And there'll probably be some craft survivors as well. But I think, the access to capital and business, this is becoming a mature business, just like craft beer or the car industry from, the 1910s to today. Yeah, I think Schedule 3 will have radical changes. I think we're going to see consolidation in the space independent of Schedule 3. Schedule 3 will influence the flavor of the consolidation, but it's going to happen no matter what.
Will that open up more capital?
It'll open up more capital, more access. One way or another, as the industry consolidates, they're going to have to get access to capital. The buyers will, and that's going to change the markets fundamentally.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Weed Talk News. I'm Alaina Pinto. This is the C block or last section of Weed Talk News. And I'll let you in on another piece of news. This is the last Weed Talk News since the next news show produced by Pro Cannabis Media will be called Cannabis Coast to Coast. And that will make its debut on September 9th. We will take Labor Day weekend off, but on Tuesday, September 3rd, a very special day in the life of our founder, Jimmy Young. It's his 67th birthday, and we will be going live from 3:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right before 4:20, for an hour on location at the THC golf tournament in Uxbridge, Massachusetts. We will have some live interviews and flashbacks of Jimmy's sportscasting career, plus some bloopers, the best of mine and Jimmy's, the only two contributors to this program with professional broadcast experience, but everyone else is doing such a great job too. This past weekend, though, in Greenfield, Mass, Jimmy joined dozens of online influencers for a protest of the social media censors that they are censoring content of cannabis enthusiasts and supporters.
Yo, here we go, everybody. We're live at the Canterbury Connect event right now. Shout out to all these lovely people behind me, joining me, going live right now. We're here to set a record. We're about to break this record right now. Everybody's live. Everybody's smoking. Spark one up for the people right now. Everybody, let's go. Light up for the cause. We're here to spark a change. Instagram, stop shadow banning us. Facebook, stop shadow banning us.
That's Michael Thomason of Infused Productions, an event producer and advocate for cannabis normalization. 6 years ago, Michael was the first producer to host cannabis-friendly events at the Franklin County Fairgrounds in Greenfield, Massachusetts. Now, it's home to the Flower Expo in the spring, a growing outdoor business trade show that has expanded to Michigan this month. And this past weekend, it was the Canna Connect event. Thomason's idea was to bring attention to the censorship and treatment by some of the biggest social media platforms that are part of the new media landscape in this country and around the world. Thomason's idea was to bring attention to the censorship and treatment by some of the biggest social media platforms that are part of the new media landscape in this country and around the world. I wanted to check out just what exactly is happening to these social media influencers who are constantly having their social media content censored by those platforms like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And on the media panel, moderated by Rhode Island's Melody Mulcahy, was Chris Ferrone from Talking Joints Memo and Joe LaChance from FM radio WNHH 103.5 FM out of New Haven, Connecticut. However, the moment of the day was at 4:20 when all the influencers went live and followed Michael into an open-sided blow-up tent.
This is the very first Spark a Change. We are going to create a national holiday. August 24th from now on will be Spark a Change Day. Starting here at Cannabis.
Only time will tell if this Spark a Change launch can grow nationally, but like the American Revolution, it all started in Massachusetts. Reporting for Weed Talk News, I'm PCM founder Jimmy Young. Now let's go 3,000 miles away to California to see what's going on in the #1 market of cannabis in the United States with Lisa Batista. Lisa?
I'm Lisa Batista from the Flavor Co. with the California Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Now that the State Appropriations Committee killed the hemp makeover bill on August 15th, the plans for regulating the intoxicating hemp industry in the state are once again in limbo. Like many states, California is trying to figure out how best to regulate the market that is fueling hemp-derived products available at gas stations, convenience stores, and smoke shops. This is going on in many states around the country and will be a major issue with the plant until the federal government figures out the scheduling parameters and regulations. In the meantime, Glass House Brands is challenging the recent recall of their products because the state claims there was mold in the pre-rolls of their Garlic Starship strain. The California Department of Cannabis Control recalled the products that were sold at 15 dispensaries in the state. Glass House has several questions for the regulatory board. Where did they come from, a retailer or distributor? What prompted the state's review of a product that was already cleared for sale? What lab did the testing, and where are those findings? Those questions have not been answered by the DCC. While communication is not something any regulatory agency in this industry excels in, silence is not golden in this case in the Golden State. And finally tonight, a food reporter from Los Angeles wrote an interesting story about his experience dining at a restaurant in West Hollywood called Irie. West Hollywood is extremely friendly to restaurants where cannabis is served on the menu alongside California cuisine. 3 other restaurants in that neighborhood, the Original Cannabis Cafe, the Artistry Studio Cannabis Lounge, and the Woods WeHo, also combine cannabis and food. Lester Black wrote the story for SF Gate, a Bay Area news and lifestyle outlet. His conclusions were very positive, and he felt that these restaurants were normalizing the experience. The only problem, of course, is pairing food and cannabis in a restaurant is a violation of state law. Just another example of a jurisdiction thumbing its nose or other body part at state law. That's this week's California Cannabis Report. I'm Lisa Batista from the Flavor Co. reporting for Weed Talk News.
The battle over the question 3 ballot question in Florida continues to rage, with both sides trying to outspend each other in media campaigns. The latest polls in that state continue to show support that will be bigger than the 60% required for it to pass into law. Our new Florida reporter is Jeff Aker, the master gardener in the Sunshine State, who is constantly waving the yes on Question 3 initiative.
Thanks, Alaina. Yeah, I'm Jeff, the master gardener from Florida for Weed Talk News. Yes, we have quite the battle going on, but we have a lot of issues here in Florida. We have some of the strictest cannabis laws on the books in the country. If you got caught with 32 or an ounce of weed in your car, you would be up to 5 years in prison. If you got caught growing 1 plant in Florida, a felony, 5 years in prison. The Department of Justice has come out and said there's currently no one in jail for minimal amounts of cannabis. Of course not. It's a misdemeanor for under 20 grams. So, but I bet you those 16,000 people they arrested for cannabis possession in Florida last year have attorney fees, have troubles working and getting jobs. It's hard. It's hard with a cannabis possession conviction. Let's put it all away. Let's put the risk of that away. Vote for 3. I urge all Floridians, not for yourself, do it for your friends, your family, the wellness of the state. Another research shows that people buy their cannabis from dispensaries when available. They would rather buy it from dispensaries when available. Come back and see us. More news coming. Jeff Master Gardener from Florida for We Talk News.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jill Goldsberry, and welcome to We Talk News, the New Jersey Cannabis Report. And we're beginning today with the developing story out of Jersey City. A new legal filing is making headlines, accusing Jersey City Mayor Stephen Fulop of using his position to target police officers for their off-duty legal cannabis use. And it's alleged that it is a strategy to boost his gubernatorial campaign. So what we've discovered is attorney Michael Rubius, who has filed the complaint, alleges that Mayor Stephen Fulop is exploiting his power to fire police officers who use legally regulated cannabis during their personal time. And according to Rubius, this action is just another legal misstep. But he claims that it's Mayor Fulop's, I guess, ruse. I guess that's the best way to describe it, to get attention to himself, to get the gubernatorial bid. The problem is this action is really is going to affect police officers. Other mayors in other cities may look at this and see that this is something that they can do, that they'd like to do. And it affects the taxpayers who face substantial costs in back pay and attorney fees. And it raises the questions as well with personal freedoms. It raises the question of personal freedoms versus professional regulations. So we'll continue to follow up on this story and bring you the latest updates as they develop. I'm Jill Goldsberry with the New Jersey Report with We Talk News, New Jersey.
Now let's check in with the cannabis legalization news guys, Thomas Howard and Miggy 420.
We have some federal legalization news this week. We're going to really focus on that because the presidential election is coming up, but also we're expecting Schedule 3 and many other things. This election allows the elected possible senators and representatives to ring in on whether or not they support your favorite issue. And that's why it is our lead story of the week. There's certain things that I don't like in laws. Loopholes and window dressing. And so that's why. And so like when I see loopholes or window dressing, I'm like, what are you even trying to do here? What's the policy goal of this? Fraud? Is that what the policy goal is? Because that's how you get fraud. But I digress. We're here for the news. And so we have news that's at the national level. I'm looking at the second story. The first one has to do with Kamala Harris, ready to sign marijuana reform bill if elected president, according to a Democratic senator.
For legalization, I've always, I never thought policy was ever going to happen, dude. Because like you've always said, Congress needs to pass the bill, right? To make this thing part of our lexicon, whatever you want to say. But, with rescheduling, that's already been the ball rolling. Like there's been actual how to legislate, how to lead with this present administration. And I see
they don't want to. Cannabis is such a non-issue. I mean, we love it. We think it's an important issue about what it means to be American and freedom and small government, big government, sensible regulations, faith in the laws that you have to abide by. But we are just by and large ignored. The Democratic National Convention, the Republican National Convention, number of times cannabis came up.
Well, it's on a Democratic platform now. I mean, at least they touted it, right? That was one of the stories
Zero.
Not at all?
No, it's still not up. And so it's one of those where what's going to happen is Harris will win. Is she going to then sign something? And then she doesn't have to sign nothing. They just have to make the rule effective.
As far as
Biden's already signed that thing 2 years ago.
Right. The ball's already rolling. I mean, it can stop. It can get stopped at any time. So I think with if we can continue with the Democratic administration type BS, we will get the progress we need. Something that'll be for the people. Something that's going to be, like you said, the whole liberty, freedom. Because the Farm Bill, people say the Farm Bill legalized weed, but it's by far has not. It hasn't given anybody protections. Right?
Yeah, it has not legalized marijuana. It legalized the cannabis plant. Thumbs up for you. It legalized the cannabis plant, but it did not allow for all those crimes. And so, like, when you have states like North Carolina, where they're saying, oh, this THC is hemp, here, go buy it at a store. You lit it on fire, arrest them. Like, they haven't fixed it. That's just a loophole being exploited right there. And so I don't like that. And I also don't like when they don't really know how to set up the regulations, or they set up the regulations that they know are going to like fail, or they just don't really care. And that's really kind of what I get after being in it for so long. I just think a lot of it is they don't really care.
Well, that will wrap it up for the last edition of Weed Talk News. We will be launching Cannabis Coast to Coast News on September 9th. So remember to like, share, subscribe. And now you can download the new PCM TV app, available for free at the App Store and Google Play. Plus, we offer a bonus coupon of $500 for your next hotel stay at many major hotels. Check it out and make sure you search for PCM with a space before the T and V. It's available right now. PCM founder Jimmy Young and co-host Eric Williamson will have more details on some other promotions we are introducing as we roll this out with our live remote scheduled for September 3rd. But for now, I'm Alaina Pinto. Remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there, so use it responsibly. We leave you with a video essay of the Flower Expo show that was in Michigan 2 weeks ago.